Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second week of training here in May. And for some of you, you have got some butterflies going on in your tummy because in a couple of days, you're going to be on a flight coming to Austin, Texas for Total Skills Integration. And I cannot be more excited about just being knee to knee and shoulder to shoulder with you in this life-changing event that's coming up. Today, our $100,000 lesson plan is entitled Layer 2, where rubber meets the road. We have been in compliance now for this month so far and peeled a lot of onion back last week. We talked about layer 3, and what we want to do is get into a rhythm quickly here so that we can get into layer 2. Let's review, first of all, the definition of comply, right? That's the root word of compliance. That's what you and your team and I have been training on and will train on all this month. And it says to confirm, to submit, to adapt. I had brought that in last week, and you can see how important that is. I'm going back in it again. I just do not want you to think of anything other than when you hear the word compliance, you're thinking conform, submit, adapt, right? It's something that I need to absolutely follow, right? In the same way that you need to follow me, your patients need to follow you, right? And if you're not following this, chances are the patients aren't following you in the way that you want them to, in the way that they could or should. So to confirm, to submit, to adapt, that's going to mean so much more as we move forward. So we talked about layer 3 last week, the internal layer of compliance. We talked about culture and how important that is. I know, have already started to put great work in because there were simple pieces there that were required for zero gap time to kind of put in last week, checking your culture, right? Checking your core beliefs, checking your core values. Any other questions that you have before you get on that plane? I mean, I didn't get as many think tanks as I believe I should have. Maybe today is that day where, gosh, you know what? I'm going to sit down and give Coach CJ a think tank about layer 3 or maybe even layer 2 as we get into it today. That first layer, the external layer, is just following state and federal regulations, right? That's that external layer. You need to understand that's Medicare, Medicaid, HMOs, PPOs. You understand that is completely in your circle of concern. Do you see that outer circle on your screen? That's where state and federal regulations exist. You have zero power or authority to influence any of that. So breaking news, here it is. State and federal regulations have never limited the growth of an on-purpose practice. That's why you don't see me concerned about that at all. So we follow those regulations, but those don't affect us at all in terms of getting your practice 50 to 100 patient visits a week busier right now, increasing your income 10 to 20,000 a month right now. So I'm not going to have more to say about layer 1 because I really want to get into the work here. So from this moment forward, just don't spend any time being worried or anxious, right? Look up Philippians 4:13, and it just reminds you not to be anxious for anything or frustrated about external regulations, right? You don't have power of those because they're not in your way. And that's maybe the first early takeaway. They are not Medicare, state laws on how you use personal injury, and so forth. PPOs, HMOs, they're not in your way of fulfilling your dreams. And maybe that's the first thing you needed to hear. You are in control of the type of practice you choose to build. You are in control of that. And that's why you and I do this every single week. If your practice is too heavily leveraged, in Medicare or in personal injury or HMO, well, then you'll have a hard time, being able to create lasting sustainability and prosperity, right? This is why we work so hard. I work so hard with you, in doing our TSI seminars, these weekly trainings, our one-on-ones. Everything is designed in the Accelerate system so that you can find what's called dynamic balance. Dynamic balance isn't 50-50. It's not just split down the middle. You might have a little more PI than someone else. You might have a little more Medicare than someone else based on what state that you're in, right? So I'm not suggesting that it's all the same exact percentage of cash, insurance, and so forth. that everyone's the same. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there's a very clear, dynamic, healthy balance for you and your practice and your team that allows lasting, sustainable prosperity, growth and prosperity. And compliance, it turns out, has everything to do with this. So layer 2, let's get into this. And layer 2 of compliance is about internal, right? Internal. So your Total Complete Accelerate system has procedures that you need to be accountable for. And so if you take a look at this, look at and take a screenshot here, right? Team synergy. These are not good ideas. And this isn't, when you get a chance to get to it, or after I finish a certain few other projects, I'll get into this. This is all DEFCON 1. This is all right now status priority 1, right? Team synergy, patient outcome reproducibility, patient outcome reproduce. We have to get to the point where no matter what a patient comes in with and what their age is and what their circumstance, our patient outcome reproducibility is spot on. High level KPI performance. For those of you that are not familiar with KPI, key performance indicators, like your stats are coming in strong. Most of you are sending your stats in, and some of you are not, right? So I just want you to know, between Katrina and myself and the rest of our team, I can't help you as much as I should be able to without seeing your stats. Now, Katrina's actually also put another form, another very simple form together for you and your team to be able to send in on the 1st of every month. Take a look at that form right now and make sure that that's something you either are assigned to or someone on your team is assigned to, that by the 1st of the month, they are think tanking that back into me. That way I've already looked at it before you and I do our one-on-one calls. Do you know that's the normal, healthy way for me to help you, is to see what your stats were before we even get on a call? So, okay, so that's one thing about me and you, but high-level KPI performance means that we're doing right things right inside the practice. So the kind of results that you were hoping and looking for are actually happening. Right? Master checklist accountability. We are not a team that uses memory management. I don't want to have to try to remember everything. How many of you would agree that by the time you go from 50 a week to 100 a week to 150 a week, there's a lot more moving parts? Say yes if you're with me on that, right? So yeah. Now, how about from 150 to 200 and 2 to 250? And by the time that you're doing this, which is awesome, right? There's just more moving parts. In the same period of time, more moving parts. It's not about memory management. It's about a master checklist, and we're getting everything done in the time that it is to be done. Hardwired capacity, so that we can actually have, for example, 20 or 30 or 40 or more patients beautifully taken care of in a primetime hour. That we can actually take care of 2 or 3 new patients in this period of time, that we can easily actually see 4, 5, 6, 7 reports of findings in those report times in a day. Hardwired capacity for growth and robust referral enrollment. That we are a proactive referral team. That is part of our purpose. It's part of our heart. Notice what I'm holding you accountable to. This is every shift, every day. So let's go through a few principles today that I think will help just kind of prime the pump as we get ready for Total Skills Integration this Friday. Principle number 1, before there was ever a single patient in your practice, think about that. Because some of you actually bought a practice and it already had some patients, right? Some of you, I've helped build your practice from scratch. So you're really literally catching what I'm saying right now, because you had no patients and then we had patients, right? So take yourself back to at least a picture in your mind that before there was ever patient number 1, your practice, my friend, your practice systems and procedures were fully operational. Now that should probably change things for you right now. Notice what I said. There's no patients in this practice. There's not a single patient in this practice, and yet all of our systems and all of our procedures are fully operational. We did not need a patient in order to do that. So our patients should be coming into a fully operational system. Are you with me, right? As opposed to now patients are coming in, and that's great, right? And they're getting great care by you, but they're coming into a practice where the systems and procedures are not really fully operational. You'll see in a minute why that lack of compliance will injure your ability. It will deter your ability to grow at the rate and the height that you'd like to grow. Patients were never intended to be involved in co-creating, co-leading, or co-managing any of your systems or procedures. So back to that, hey, there's no patients and they're coming in and they're just following a fully operational process. That's how it should be. And I promise you, if it's not that way right now, it will be. I'm going to help you make that happen. The more interesting part of this is it's easier. Listen carefully. It's much easier for me to take a doctor who's saying, Coach, I want to go open a practice. Can you help me get the lease, which I do? And we get the lease all figured out. Can you help me lay out the office, which I do? Can you help me figure out what kind of furniture and what kind of equipment and what kind of technology, which I do, right? So we do. Can you tell me what marketing I should put? Yes. So we're doing all that. There's not a single patient. And so we're doing all of this and we get all of our systems, all of our scripting, all of our procedures, everything is in and fully operational. So when the first patient comes in, watch this, the patient doesn't need to co-create, they don't need to co-lead, they don't need to co-manage. They're not allowed to do that. But if your patients do that, what does this mean? This by far is the biggest compliance challenge today of your practice and this great profession is we're still allowing patients to make too many decisions about what happens in their case. And so if that happens often enough, watch this, it becomes somewhat insidiary, meaning insidious. It's just right underneath your nose and you're not seeing it, is patients are deciding if they make a visit up, kind of when they come in, how often they come in, if they make a payment, do they get to the workshop? Are they referring? Have we checked their family? It goes on and on and on as to how they're participating and how they're complying. They're co-leading, they're co-managing. Do you know that always leads to higher missed visits, higher dropout rates? That leads to lower growth ability in our patient visit weekly volume, and a challenge being able to see our income go up to the next level. And where's that all coming from? Well, for some reason, we've just sort of allowed our patients to co-lead, co-manage. I think you're getting this, right? So in this very first principle, that's crazy for you to be able to go, okay, I got this. I got this. I actually see now how this should be operating. So let's bring that into principle number 2, which we're going to take this to 10x when you come to Austin this week. So just priming the pump so you can get a see of where's your practice going to be? How strong is your practice going to be as we go through this summer? I'm telling you, it's going to be best and better than it has ever been. I guarantee you that. So it's always been your house, your rules, your process, your way. You need to hear me say that and remind you and your team of that today, right now. Let me say it again. It has always been your house. It's been your rules. It's been your process, your way. Do you understand? That's how you get sick people well and keep them well for life. Is this principle 2? And if we don't have that locked down, then those phrases that I just used in principle 1, which will go all the way through principle 2, 3, and 4, is, oh my gosh, we have too many patients that are kind of co-leading and co-managing, calling and deciding if they're coming in, if they're rescheduling, if they're referring, if they actually get their family checked. It's like, what just happened there? Whoa. No. This is, see, I'm a chiropractor. This is my chiropractic practice. These are my policies, my procedures, and I'm so grateful to have you in so you can actually experience what I've taken a lifetime, my adult lifetime, to create. I am the leading expert. You just need to follow my lead in everything I'm telling you to do. That's how it should be. I'm inviting you into the way, right? I'm not asking you, well, so what do you think? And would that be better for you? And okay, all of a sudden it's like, before you know it, maybe you're not realizing your language and your actions are inviting patients to co-lead and co-manage. That always leads to dropouts. Do you know that? That always leads to the lowest PVA and the most difficult way forward in growing the practice. So your level of compliance excellence begins and ends right here. You got to own it. You got to just put a red line. You got to take a flag, if you will, metaphorically, in the front yard of your office, and you got to just put it in the dirt going, I'm reclaiming this territory. This is my practice, right? These are my rules. This is my process. I don't need my patient to help me with any of that. What I need to do is have them follow my lead. So you just got to be able to understand, you got to get ahead and stay ahead of every single operational action in your practice. So another way to say that, so you can really kind of just feel what I'm saying today, you got to lead from the front, my friend. You got to lead by example. You got to lead from the front. You never give leadership away. When I shake your hand, it's the first time I meet you, I'm in the lead. Now, I know you don't know everything you need to know yet, CJ, about my consideration, my problem, my pain, how many other doctors I've seen. I don't know any of that just yet, but I'm actually in the lead. And I'm going to lead this process so that I can find out what I need. Because here's the thing, Mrs. Jones, you don't know what I need to know. You know a lot of things, and I don't need to know all those things. Here's what I need. So I'm going to lead you to tell me what I need to know so that I can absolutely find the reason, the cause of what's causing the problems that you're having, so that I can put together an expert solution and find the way to get your body healthy and well again and keep it well for life, right? There's never a time in the new patient experience, in the report, at the adjusting table, biostructural workshop, the resign, there isn't a place where we ever give up the lead. You've got to get ahead and stay ahead of every single operational action. That's not hard. There's a difference. I'm going to tell you right now, it's simple, but it's not easy. And why isn't it easy? Because patients will, whether you know it or not, they're going to try to put their own opinion into your mind. They're going to put their own thoughts and fears and limiting beliefs into conversation. And you've got to ask yourself, what do I do with that? So when the world comes into my office, do I change this perfect, fully operational system because of what somebody's opinion is or what their fear or limiting belief is? And all of a sudden they're co-leading and all of a sudden they're co-managing. Heard that come back again, right? No. The first law of leadership, the first law, please write this down. The first law of leadership is someone is always leading. That's got to be you and your team. Yes, I'm leading, right? Choose to be the leader. It's your house, it's your rules, it's your way. You cannot let people lead. Now you can start talking about various people's personalities, right? We talk about A people, and so somebody's got like an A personality, and that's a driver, and they come in with a suit and red tie, and you're like, you might get a little intimidated. They kind of come in and go, hey, look, I've got a really busy schedule. This is what I need. And they're trying to tell you early, like, this is how it's going to go. No. No matter what kind of personality walks in, no matter what condition walks in, you need to hear my voice today so you recognize, starting today, right now, I'm taking my lead back. Under any circumstances, you have never, ever been given the authority. I'm not telling you even have the right to give the leadership away. Do you understand? Chiropractors giving the leadership away is giving this profession away. And if we're not careful, the profession turns into something that it was never intended to be. It's no longer chiropractic. It's something else. Why is that? Because we didn't comply. We didn't submit. We didn't conform. Come on, say yes if you get what I'm saying, right? Like, we didn't adapt to what is true. What is the true plumb line? The world's going to come in and try to move your plumb line in every way you can imagine. You are the person, the orchestra conductor, that brings that plumb line back. So when your patients agree to follow your care plan, we're talking about report of findings, right? And a successful one. Listen to the words again. Maybe a screenshot here is massive for you. They are not. They are what? They are not. Okay, that sounds really clear. That's a red line here, right? They are not authorized. Your patients, they're not authorized to miss, rearrange, or reschedule any aspect of your care plan. And to the degree that you allow that is them co-leading, co-creating, co-managing. No, we don't need any of their help. We don't need any of their input that way. We've already got it all figured out. And when you follow this system, sick people get well and they stay well for life. Give me a high five. Come on. If you've got that. Yes. So they're not authorized. All right. So I suspect you know this in your heart. I truly do. And now you must embrace this as a new operational mantra, right? To ensure that maximum healing results for every one of your single patients happens. And we just can't give up the lead, right? If there's nothing else you get before we're coming into TSI, is I need to be a better, stronger, and more proactive leader, right? And that starts with you leading yourself, leading your team, and right on into leading the patients. Take the lead and hold the lead. Now, that doesn't, in no means, does that mean that I'm asking you to be belligerent? Am I asking you to be short and terse and rough and rude? Leadership's beautiful. Leadership is loving, and it's also powerful and clear and concise. And when you start to understand the nuances of what I'm talking about, you want to choose the right road. And so some of us have kind of fallen into, well, I just want to make sure that my patients really know that I'm there for them. I want them to know that I'm kind and I'm loving, I'm empathetic, I'm supportive. When you hear the words that just came out of my mouth, that's almost like a legit reason why I'm going to let you kind of come in whenever you can come in. Like if you don't make that visit up, all right, I'd rather have you do it. If you didn't come to the workshop, well, gosh, I would have rather have that happen. Guys, I would have loved to have checked your spouse. I'd have loved to have checked your children, but that didn't happen. Like all of a sudden, there's just this erosion happening around you, but you feel, the weird thing is, and I have been there, so that's why I'm being tough on you right now. You are feeling, well, but I'm being kind and supportive and empathetic and loving. No, you're not. No, you're not. And no, I'm not. You are being weak as a team. And we are letting the world and your patients run and bowl you over. And they are, whether you know it or not, they're just changing your operation. It's not fully operational at all. It's actually, we're kind of building it and rechanging it based on what our patients are saying and what they feel they need. And before you know it, what are we doing? Right? So we can't control that, right? So compliance is about being able to get to the point where we can have controlled chaos. And I've taught every one of you the power of that, right? Because that 11% space in a Bell diagram, controlled chaos is where all growth happens. So you notice I'm not talking on the chaos side. I'm going to get to that at TSI in a big way. This entire month, and particularly this training, this Tuesday training, how do I get more control? Comply. You need to submit. Like you really need to look at, am I actually doing these scripts? Do I actually have block scheduling, or are people still kind of moving the schedule around as they need? And I don't own my schedule book. So we'll see more of this as we go through, right? Principle number 3. Discipline is a great word. It's one of the greatest words that I've come to understand in the last 20, 25 years of my life. Why? Discipline is freedom. So this is where the rubber of complying to your systems and procedures hits the road of chasing your dreams and your goals, because control chaos is real. It can happen, but it cannot happen without control. Control doesn't happen without leadership, and leadership does not happen without discipline. So you're starting to see then this beautiful onion being peeled back, so you could actually get to, okay, dreams and goals. Dreams and goals. Yes. Dreams and goals, without a doubt, that requires leadership, and leadership requires discipline, right? And so if you know that, right, you can start looking at that going, well, gosh, I'm really strong at creating goals. Like I really feel like I can visualize my goals. I feel passion and excitement about the kind of dreams that I have. That's awesome. Where's the leadership that would allow that to happen? And then where's the discipline that brings that leadership to the place where that happens, so that I'm fully operational? Notice I'm continually going back to, you know what? I should be fully operational with no patients. I should be fully operational with 100 a week, 200 a week, 600 a week, 1,200 a week. I'm fully operational. Okay. So it is the only discipline to fully submit to your Accelerate systems and procedures. This is the only way. This is the only way, which ensures, and again, a screenshot here I think would be very helpful, because you and your team ultimately need to look at these and say, are we complying to the Accelerate system? Are we applying in such a way? Are we executing to the point of KPI performance, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, on kept visits? Notice it's right up on your screen. I want to make sure that you and your team this year are in a few of the clubs inside this Accelerate program. And inside this Accelerate coaching program, there's a club called Single Missed Visit Digit, single missed visit club, right? And that is the single digit missed visit club, which is your missed visits, they're under 10%, meaning single, 9%, 8%, 7%, right? And there are several of you in that club right now. What does that mean? That means you're complying in a way that is causing your patients to follow your lead. See, patients don't follow anything other than leadership. So I hope you're starting to see that this whole compliance thing is about how you submit. Now, this is maybe a little bit torquish for you. Like maybe it's just kind of coming through because it's hard to breathe in what I'm saying, because it seems to be counterintuitive. You need to submit in order to lead. Wait a second. How did you just put those two together, right? I need to submit. I need to submit. I need to adapt, right? I need to conform in order to actually be a better leader. Meaning you need to make sure that you've trusted it in me in a way that you now see putting this in this way makes me a stronger and stronger leader for the people that you're serving. So another way to say that is the best leaders are also great followers. And maybe that's just kind of sparked a new fire for you, is to realize a big part of your challenge, like the ask that you're confronted with, like this is the challenge for you, is how well can you trust the Accelerate system? How well can you trust me? How well can you follow my lead so that you could turn around and have people follow your lead? I just hope and pray you're seeing that right now. So kept visits, less than 10%. On-time appointments. Well, the first person that needs to be on time is you, right? And so that if we have a 2-minute adjustment time, stay true to that, comply, adapt, conform to a 2-minute adjustment time, right? And then watch what happens when you do, because when you're on time, you have an easier way of being able to tell your patients to be on time. Registered and attended workshops with guests. Well, this is not an invitation. You know, I've never said that that a workshop is an invitation. It's a requirement. It's compulsory. And why is that? Because it's there and only there that you will learn how people get sick. And which is why I need you to bring a guest, because it'll be the first time maybe in their entire life that they'll actually learn how and why we actually get sick. That's never been taught to the public before, and we teach it here. How does the body get sick? And then how do sick people get well? That's the second piece. Faster. And then how do we actually stay well longer? Like for life. That's what we're going to do in this half hour to health. I'd love to say it's an invitation. It's not, right? And who would you like to bring? On-time pay or prepay. So they're either actually paying in advance or they're making 6 or 10 equal payments. It's auto charge from a credit card. It's auto debit from a checking account. And it's all done in advance. So we're not talking money the rest of their care plan. It's auto charge the 1st or the 15th of every month. Here it is. And there it is. Or it's been prepaid. Knowledgeable patients with core beliefs. So we're not having people just kind of come in. They're sitting up on the table. You know, they're slow coming off the hot seats, and we have to actually still bring them to the table. Their stuff is still in their pockets, and we're like, oh yeah, can you still take the glasses off? Like, they're just not ready, right? And then we're not really doing the tick. You know, for some reason, we didn't conform. We didn't adapt. We didn't, you know, just submit to the fact that we should be great educators in that 30-second soundbite that we went over last month. And so now we have it now, though, right? So we now have patients that are level 8 belief. Those are going to be lifers. And they don't walk in the door. We create those. Let's continue. This is 6 through 10. That was 1 through 5. 6 is completed daily homework. How are you doing in your team at being able to give patients homework, which could be actually some type of how they drink water on a regular basis, to how they breathe, to a particular stretch, a maneuver, a postural maneuver that they're going to work on. It could be extension cervical traction. But my point is, they should have homework at least 5 days a week. How many of your patients are doing homework 5 days a week? Do you understand that every time they do their homework, they're thinking of you and chiropractic? Every time they're thinking of you and chiropractic, they're thinking of somebody else that could use chiropractic. And everyone that's doing homework is going to be 10 times more capable, or I should say 10 times more expected, if you will, to finish their care plan. Did you know that? People who do not do homework are going to have the lowest PVA in your practice, and the people that actually are doing their homework are going to have the highest PVA. Number 7 is family members are getting checked. That's why we have a 2-week policy, that in the first 2 weeks after a person is converted to care, that we'll actually check their family, and it's waived. All the fees are waived. We don't say free. It's done at our charge, or that we've completely waived those fees, because the earliest detection of subluxation and nerve interference is the way to actually live a healthy, long life. Let's get them in. Let's get them checked. Let's just get a baseline knowledge, right? We're not talking about care at all. When we actually have them get a checkup, we're not talking about care at all. So let's just get a baseline checkup to see where their spine and nerve systems are. Do you understand? It's only when you get those families in and you've done your consult, exam, scans, x-rays, and now the family members are in a report of findings, and now mom and dad get to see the real data, the real results. I'm telling you, it's natural for them to want to invest in the people they love the most. The issue is you don't have them checked. And so this is compliance, right? This is, I'm not complying. You, not the patient, you're not complying. You're not submitting, right? You're not adapting to the point where really that is the most loving thing you could possibly do, is have every one of your patient's family's members checked. Regardless if they ever get an adjustment from you, the fact that you actually provided that is the most loving thing you could ever do. Number 8, reviews, testimonials that are submitted. You know, out of every 10 new patients that you've converted, just even this year, how many of them have written a review? How many have created a video testimonial sharing their story? Right? See, that's comply, right? That is submit. That's, I got to adapt. That's my system is fully operational. That's what this means. All of these things are happening before my first patient walks in. Before I ever have a first patient, this is who we are. This is how we roll. This is the process. This is the way. All of this is part of your operation. I think you're getting that now, right? This isn't for some patients some of the time. This is all patients all the time. Resign to wellness care. That's another club, right? So that is, again, the single digit club. And that is, you should be resigning 91% of the people who complete their corrective care. You should be then signing or re-signing 91% plus. I'm telling you right now, when we're in that club, and now you're in the single digit misvisit club, and you're in the single digit re-sign club, that's not 10 plus 10, that's 10 times 10 from the front door to the back door. And here we go. It's about compliance and patients following all patient flow protocols. I mentioned that just a moment ago, right? Like clearing stuff out of their pockets, putting it into a bowl, laying down out of gravity. So when you come to table 2, they're already laying down, right? And they're focusing on breathing because you taught them that, right? All these things are happening. So there's not conversation and talk going on, you know, during the adjustment. No. They're focused on their breathing. They're focused on that adjustment and the power being released, going to every area, every single tissue, cell, and organ in their body. When that leads us to principle number 4, and that is, when you understand compliance, culture, core values, and they come into alignment with the compliance of your systems and procedures, there's just one word that keeps coming back to me over and over again: magic. Magic. You know, I mean, it's hard to say it any other word, right? It's just like somehow you're favored. Somehow you're blessed, right? Somehow you get a double portion. Somehow you're just lucky. You're luckier than everybody else, because even though it seems like there might be a little recession issue over here, and there's interest rate issues over here, and there's global issues over there, and you can bring up all the stuff, right, about what's going on with that insurance company and what's happening in our state. And there's just all these things that you have no real control of at all. Remember, that was that big circle of concern. I don't even focus. I don't even go there, because when I comply to last week's training, which was layer 3, and my culture, my core values, and my level 8 beliefs come into alignment with the compliance that I have with the Accelerate systems and procedures, magic happens every time. And for the last 30 years, that is what I have witnessed every single time. But it does need to actually intersect, right? And so you either need to have a visual of that happening, or I gave you an example last week of a railroad track. Well, every one of us, whether we've been on a train or not, knows, there's two rails. Come on, say yes if you get that, right? And even though, watch this, even though the train can turn to the left or to the right, the rails, watch this, the rails stay exactly the same distance away, so that all the cars that are on top of those rails are in no danger at all. So we don't all wind up seeing like all of a sudden the right rail just starts to go away from the left, or the left starts to go away from the right. No. If they're going to veer, they're veering together purposely to get to an intended destination. All the cars above it are safe. That's your front door, side door, and back door cars. They're all safe. That is, all of your systems and procedures are safe because our compliance to our culture, who we are, to our core values, and to our beliefs are parallel, and we never move. They just, there's almost like this magnetic attraction to our systems. So we're doing right things right. And we feel this unbelievable feeling of magic. There's just no other way to put it. So a policy left unchecked, it's not a policy, it's just wishful thinking. And so then it's not really a policy. Do you get that? It's just a desire, it's a wish, and that doesn't really build consistent practices. That whole idea of when I said beginning of this training about like reproducibility, that's out the window when a policy is left unchecked. There is really no reason to have a policy ever, unless you have a way. Like if you want things to work this way, then there needs to be just kind of a slip and check, like just to make sure we're going this way. That's what policies are. Like, this is how sick people get well. I just want to make sure that you're on track to making sure you're getting well, because this is the way. There aren't 2 ways or 3 ways or 10 ways. This way goes back to leadership. See, when you have proper, strong leadership, people will actually then submit, listen carefully, to your policies. See, because you've submitted to the Accelerate way, they're submitting to your way. It's the way. So the better follower you are, the better leader you are, the better follower your patients are to your lead. So, we just, once again, I think this makes so much sense to you, that if we don't really actually see procedures in a strong, compliant, every patient, every time, morning shift, afternoon shift, PI, cash, HMO, none of that matters. It's like, this is our system, and this is our system, this is our system. And if we don't have that protocol, then really you don't have a procedure. It's more like a hopeful idea. And so we're kind of hoping that things go well today, but those rails, they're moving. Each of them, the culture, the systems, they're moving away from each other rather than staying strong and connected to each other. So this is why you need to understand that a culture that shifts based on people's moods is not a culture. So we can't have, based on, let's say, who we hired, like maybe you actually need to hire someone new, or you need to add somebody. Well, okay, so now we've added somebody, or somebody's coming in with a certain type of mood today, and all of a sudden your culture changes. Well, that's not a culture, right? That's rather the world has come through your front door, and the world is deciding how your practice goes today. See, we all know, and this is so important, and my team knows this as well as any team, is that life happens to everybody. And there are certain situations where you're going to come into practice and you're thinking about your spouse, or you're thinking about, one of your children, or you're thinking about your mom or dad, or you're thinking about one of your friends, or you're thinking about your finances. And in any one of these places, maybe your own body is, in somewhat stiff or sore or hurt. And there could be things where you're really kind of challenged, and you may even have a feeling of some depression, or when, maybe not depression, that seems like a too hard of a word, but certainly I have anxiousness, I have some worry, right? And my mood has changed. When I come into that practice, it needs to be sanctuary. I need to be able to take anything that's happening to me and just say, God, I'm giving it to you right now. I know, please, will you work on this? Will you help me find the solution and help me lead me to the right solution, so I can come in and really do a great job doing what I do here in this practice. And when I come in, I am fully submitted, fully adaptive to our culture and to our core beliefs and to our principles. So we can't let it flow in the wind. Otherwise, again, the railroad tracks, those rails, they're moving away from each other per hour, per shift, per day. This is what causes practices to go up and down and up and down and up and down. And wondering, gosh, coach, how do I break out of that, right? How do I get to the point where I can grow 50 patient visits a week right now? It's compliance, right? So there's layers, and I'm showing you, you might be saying, well, coach, isn't it marketing? And I'm going to say, I'm not going to disagree. You know, I'm a I'm an expert in marketing. There's a whole module in marketing. We're going to be hitting marketing at Total Skills Integration. But I'm telling you, if you got new patients coming through the door, which is really great, but they're missing visits, they're dropping out, they're not referring, they're not coming to the workshop, what are you doing? Like, do you really think that more marketing is going to actually get you where you want to go? See, that's a fallacy that chiropractors have had for decades. It has never worked. It doesn't work now, and it never will work. So yes, you should have marketing, but marketing isn't the answer to a lack of leadership and a lack of compliance in a practice, a lack of culture, as we went through last week. So if you feel that I may be speaking directly to you, I have good news for you. You can reclaim it all starting today, right? I mean, this can change on a dime. It can happen very quickly. Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be dismayed, for the Lord God is wherever you go. Joshua 1:9, a great read when you get a chance. Be strong, be courageous. We don't need to be weaker. We don't need to let people decide what's happening inside of your practice. Total Skills Integration this weekend will show you and your team how to increase your faith, confidence, and belief in a way that you never thought imaginable. To me, that is at the top of this equation, that how you keep feeding and growing and resourcing your FCB is really how your compliance goes for a ride in a beautiful way, how your marketing goes for a ride in a beautiful way, how your team development goes for a ride in a beautiful way. And as all of those things are part of those rails, those two rails, and as we're moving up the mountain, 200 a week, 250 a week, 350 a week, from 15,000 to 20,000 to 30,000 to 50,000 to 80,000 to 130,000 a month of revenue. We got to get those rails right and tight. And that's what we do every single week. So be clear, the way forward is the way through. Amen. The way forward is the way through. And there's just no going around it. We need to understand, how do we put these systems in? And then how do we hold our line to those systems? And what you're going to is that leadership doesn't mean that everybody is going to immediately follow you. What a big part of leadership is staying in the raft. A big part of leadership is people seeing how much passion you have for who you are and what you do and what you stand for, that they're like, I can trust her. I can trust him. Like I feel they are in it. Like they're not going to be changing. They're not going to be waffling. I know they care for me. I know they absolutely know what they're talking about. And I need to follow. I need to follow him. I need to follow her. You need to earn that. You need to earn that. People just don't come in and just all of a sudden start following. They follow leaders. They don't follow doctors. They follow leaders, right? They don't follow businesses. They follow leaders. And leaders comply. They have enormous discipline around compliance. And maybe that's hitting you hard right now. That's what makes Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 companies so exceptional. If you actually looked at their compliance, incredible. If you looked at their culture, incredible. And they do not allow anything else than top culture, top compliance to systems and procedures. And those rails are right and tight. Strong compliance. Oh my gosh. Strong compliance. The only way to create that is through strong FCB. So I'm praying today that you and your team, as we go through week by week and month by month, you're noticing that the topic, no matter what the topic is, whether it's conversion, patient education, or like compliance this month, I'm wanting you to take extra special care of your FCB. See, your FCB does not require any new evidence. So in other words, you don't have to grow your practice today to have more FCB. You did not need to get a prepay today to have more FCB. You did not need to actually see these people re-sign, or these people convert. Like the KPIs, we do not need KPIs to have stronger FCB. You are required to care for your FCB and your team's FCB. So as our faith, confidence, and belief continues to get stronger, here's how I like to look at it. This line right here is the line of increasing FCB strength. Are you with me? And so now as we see that underneath it, your practice is growing up and down on the way up. It is growing up and down on the way up, following your FCB. That's how we get stronger in compliance. That's how we get stronger in culture. That's how we get stronger in marketing. That's how we get stronger in team development. And so today, I believe as we're looking at this second layer, we mentioned there's 3 layers, right? And layer 3 was culture. Today, it was about really how strong, how real disciplined, how committed am I and our team to the exact procedures and systems in our practice. So we don't waver. We don't waver at all. And our rails are tight and right. That may just be the picture that you leave today as you're coming into total skills integration, because we're going to put a massive amount of breakthrough on all of that. The moment you decide that you're all in, my friend, revenue increases, missed visits shrink, weekly volume goes up, PVA expands, and your joy for practice is off the charts. And that right there, if you take a screenshot, that's my wish for you. That's my desire for you, is that right there. And so everything I'm instructing you, everything I'm coaching you to do creates that. But you got to meet me halfway, and you got to decide, you know what? I can do a better job of having shorter gap time. I can really start executing things faster. I don't know why I'm not moving faster, not overwhelmed. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about making a ton of changes too quickly. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you come off a training like this, but nothing changes the rest of the week, that's not zero gap time, right? Every week you should feel like I'm getting 1% better. That's all I'm asking for you is like, if I can get 1%, if we can get 1% better this week, well, that means that I reached out, right? Those things that are in my circle of influence, like I can make a change. Let's do that. Let's get better this week. And of course, with this seminar coming up, you have no other choice. That is what is happening. So I just want to thank you for coming into this second week. I can't wait for those of you coming to Total Skills Integration. And of course, the week after is going to be still part of that TSI. And that is the third week, which we're going to have Q&A on that one, right? The third week is Q&A. So I look forward to seeing you after that Total Skills Integration in the third Tuesday. Until next time, and as always, practice with passion. Have an amazing day, and God bless you.